You know, the history of bread goes back much earlier than people even recently thought. And that's enveloping itself and leapfrogging itself back just as well as agriculture and other aspects are of early life. But it's often overlooked because it was the fuel, it seems, that led to modern humanity. That in a way, just making bread started something that ended up leading to all forms of civilization that we have today. This is one of the revealing points that shows you part of how late it goes back, but I've recently shown a video where a grinding stone to make flour out of was found at 24,000 BC. And I've got another one shown up that they believe they're making porridge at 26,000 BC, and this is well during the throes of the last ice age. But of course, we still believe people were nomadic at that time, and we have this float point now, which has been shifted, and the goalpost has well been shifted into 10,000 BC, and at the end of the Younger Dryas event and the end of the last ice age. So when we look at a lump of bread like this, back in old days it was flattened out, more like a tortilla type of thing, and not really like a loaf that we would think of today, more like a pita. But then again, people would take vegetables, our food, our meats, and so on, our fruits even, and put them inside of it, fold it over, and roll it up a little like a taco. So in some ways, that idea and concept can go back much further. Recently did a video showing in Pompeii how they had fast food restaurants going on in the situation, but this is something that dates well below that too, and well before it. So where are we looking at as we look at this fresh made bread here that's making me hungry? Well, the Natufians, who I've done a few different videos about here, which are correlated to the what's known as the Black Desert area. This is inland, much further from Israel and Jordan area, where we've shown that there are these stone circles and corrals that they made there, and the Natufians are associated with this. And these corrals, there are thousands of them, which I did a video about, and I may put it in the top left hand corner here at the end of this if I can track it and collect it or connect it. But these corrals go from Syria or ancient Anatolia all the way through the Black Desert area and into Yemen. But also I make connections in the video that I talked about. They'll be in the top left hand corner at the end, where these are also found past Egypt down into sub-Saharan Africa, and they're the same type things, and that there are thousands and thousands of those too. And if they were correctly looked at, we would see a formation of mankind's origins that we did not know before, but it looks like people are trying to avoid that for, I guess, obvious reasons. But this Black Desert area has these corrals that are found, and what did they find? Well, in some of these ancient hearths and pits that they found some pieces of charcoal type material that they were going to try to date. Some of it had a real perforated appearance to it, like you see here, and they realized that this was like a sourdough type flatbread that was made, only it contains a few different things than you would think of just in a normal bread, for there are tubers like onions and stuff that were mixed into it that were ground also, and so a little onion bun situation here. And it wasn't just one of them that were found, there were quite a few of these. So there's quite a few pieces of this found, and its charcoal remnants date to 14,400 BC, and they're making sourdough bread. So this bread goes back much older than people gave credit for. And so looking through science, they were able to tell these ancient Natufians who had these buildings and dwellings that look very much like this here had started farming. And by farming and utilizing this grain, it's entirely believed that this helped spawn forth people staying in one certain area and not being nomadic, like the birds, where whenever it got cold you might go more south and more north, and you were following herds and so on instead of staying around and just hunting for what you had. And people were more of a meat eater perhaps until this point kicked in, which looks like it reaches back over 30,000 years, where people, as they were out hunting, would find this, and this was something they were able to eat, and just natural fields of barley and emmer wheats that they took and processed and turned into a primordial type bread. And because that was such a fashion item and fantastic, and fed them like sending somebody off with a group of biscuits as they went to try to find a deer, right? This became such a fashion that it led forth towards the cultures known as the Natufians, which it seems in our historical record now, without some other drastic finding, were a people that helped begin civilization and through the Fertile Crescent, and their spreading of themselves down and into North Africa and Egypt, and bringing along with them cattle and grains that they had already domesticated and got to a point of putting out a whole lot more than they were before, led towards modern civilization. So it became pretty important to these people of ancient times for bread to be out there. But when this thing was analyzed, again, like I said, it had all kinds of legumes, like an onion type of thing, like leeks or something into it. And so it wouldn't have been the bread that you normally think of, but more of an onion type of buns that were being made by this group of people here, where they had little extra nutrient that was going on, maybe in just the bread itself. One wonders, if they didn't just split the bread open and put other foods in there also and make it more into a sandwich type of thing. But 14,400 BC, the Natufians were making bread. And in a couple of videos I've made about them, it shows their bread making devices and well worn in. And they talk about how this probably was a gritty bread because of that effect of making it. That's no real difference than ancient grinding wheels and ancient mill houses that ended up making wheat and bread up until a modern day, where we've kind of taken the grit out of it finally. Anyhow, like, share, and subscribe, and enjoy, and we'll get on to more about this. And maybe I'll make that other video that's about porridge and put that out recently, or soon after this one. And again, in your top left-hand corner should be showing up now is those ancient Natufian crop circles, which have been found, again, all the way from Lebanon and ancient Syria, or Anatolia, all the way through what's known as the Black Desert and into Yemen, but also through Egypt and on much further, showing you something else about these Natufian people, which at one time were one little group about Wadi El Natuf that a little lady had found doing her archaeological studies, but it seems to connect to a huge amount of people that actually led towards modern civilization. Peace.